A Second Chance at Love. Previous episodes are available in playlist. A link is given in the video description. Episode 59. The expensive plants had all been replaced with some unimpressive flowers, and the walls were decorated with strips of colorful lights. Unsure if Lucian was satisfied with the decoration, Caden explained, "I kept the decoration simple as per your instructions, Mr. Farwell." The look in Lucian's eyes slowly grew gentle as he scanned the back garden. "This will do. Did you bring the item I asked for?" Caden quickly whipped out an exquisite velvet box and handed it over to him. The cold look on Lucian's face vanished completely when he opened the box and saw its content. Exhausted from crying, Estella fell asleep while lying in Roxanne's arms. Roxanne didn't get any sleep throughout the entire afternoon. The incident with Aubrey left her feeling a little tired as well, so she decided to take a nap on Estella's bed. Seeing as Roxanne and Estella were fast asleep, Archie and Benny left the room to avoid disturbing them. Upon arriving at the balcony, they saw Lucian and Caden discussing something in the back garden. They couldn't hear what the two were saying, but they could see Caden handing Lucian a tiny box. As the boys got on their tiptoes to get a better look, they saw something shiny inside the box. Benny's eyes lit up as he asked excitedly, "Is Daddy going to propose to Mommy?" After all, it was obvious that the item inside the box was a ring. Archie was a little surprised as well, but he frowned in confusion moments later. That evil woman just caused a huge scene not long ago, though. Is Daddy really going to propose to Mommy so soon? Now that I think about it, Daddy probably wanted Grandma to stay over so she could witness his proposal. Archie's confusion was soon replaced by excitement and anticipation. The boys were tempted to wake Roxanne up and bring her to Lucian right away, but they held themselves back when they recalled her having a mild fever earlier that morning. They had no choice but to wait in anticipation for Roxanne to wake up later that evening. Fortunately for them, Roxanne wasn't asleep for too long. She groggily climbed out of bed at around 8 in the evening, only to realize that Estella was no longer lying in her arms. As she glanced around the room, she saw her sitting on the carpet with Archie and Benny. The three of them were huddled together and seemed to be whispering among themselves. Archie was the first to notice Roxanne waking up, so he quickly called out to her, "Mommy! You're finally awake!" The kids then stood up and made their way over to the bed. "What were you three whispering about?" Roxanne shifted her gaze toward Estella. "And when did you wake up, Essie? How come I didn't notice?" Estella narrowed her eyes and broke into a smile as she replied, "I wasn't really tired because I took a nap at noon, so I got up after a while." Roxanne had wanted to ask how she was feeling, but she held her tongue when she saw the smile on Estella's face. Seeing as she was already feeling a lot better, Roxanne decided not to bring it up and simply patted her on the head. "We're hungry, Mommy. Let's go downstairs and have dinner," Benny exclaimed while tugging at her arm. Roxanne gasped in shock when she checked the time and saw that it was already 8. "Oh my goodness! Why didn't anyone wake me up? You kids must be starving." "I'm sorry I overslept," Roxanne said as she got out of bed and brought the kids downstairs. There were a few dishes on the dining table, but no one was around. Roxanne felt a little bad for sleeping past dinner time. "Everyone else must have eaten dinner because they couldn't wait for me any longer." I feel so bad. Good thing they reserved some food for us. Roxanne was a little worried that Estella would be unhappy that Lucian wasn't around to dine with them. To her surprise, however, Estella was smiling happily as she munched away on her food. It was as though she didn't even mind if Lucian was there. Roxanne felt her heart ache when she saw that. Is Lucian really so busy that he barely has time to spend with his daughter? That probably explains why Estella is recovering so slowly. Roxanne was about to bring the kids back upstairs after dinner when Catalina entered the living room and said, "Mr. Farwell is waiting for you in the back garden, Ms. Jarvis." Having witnessed the incident earlier that afternoon, Catalina was tempted to address Roxanne as Mrs. Farwell. However, she chose not to, as she figured it would make her uncomfortable. Roxanne paused and stared at the kids after hearing that. What does Lucian want to see me for? Would it be convenient to bring the kids with me? We want to go too, Mommy. Benny exclaimed while tugging at Roxanne's arm. Estella chimed in as well, I want to go too, Aunt Roxanne. Archie simply stood there without saying a word, but the look in his eyes gave his intention away. Unable to bring herself to say no to them, Roxanne asked Catalina, he didn't say anything about bringing the kids along, right? Catalina shook her head after giving it some thought and stepped aside to make way for them. Roxanne then held Benny's and Estella's hands while Archie walked to the front. The four of them walked out of the mansion and made their way toward the back garden. Roxanne frowned in confusion when she saw that the place was in total darkness. Hey? Didn't Lucian say he was waiting here for me? Lucian, she called out to him. A second later, the entire garden was illuminated by a light that gradually grew brighter. Roxanne's eyes went wide with surprise when she saw the traditional medicine in the back garden. Noble dendrobium, jasmine, golden and silver honeysuckle. Roxanne could name almost every plant in the back garden. She also knew that they weren't worth a lot of money, but they were essential ingredients in traditional medicine. The fact that such plants were found in the back garden of the Farwell residence came as a huge surprise for her. What is Lucian playing at? This garden used to be filled with expensive roses and peonies, but you didn't like them. After giving it some thought, I decided to have someone replace them all with plants related to traditional medicine instead, Lucian said. Roxanne glanced in the direction of his voice and saw him walking along a tiny path as he made his way toward her. For some reason, Roxanne felt exceptionally nervous when she saw him approaching. She even thought about turning around and running off. As though the kids had read her mind, they grabbed hold of her arms and held her in place. All Roxanne could do was watch as Lucian walked right up to her. He stared affectionately into her eyes as he said, I caused you a lot of suffering 6 years ago because I failed to acknowledge my true feelings for you. After you left me, I realized I couldn't live without you. He kept his gaze fixated on Roxanne as he retrieved the ring from his back pocket and slowly knelt before her. I know I rushed things a little too much lately, which caused you a lot of problems as a result. Would you be willing to give me another chance by marrying me again? Roxanne was stunned to see the man in front of her getting down on one knee. Am I dreaming? Lucian is proposing to me? Why would he do such a thing? He skipped this part when we got married 6 years ago. At that instant, Roxanne felt a little lightheaded. She could not believe what was happening right before her eyes. She instinctively wanted to flee but was held back by the three children as soon as she took a step backward. "Mommy, Mr. Farwell means it. Please say yes. He's been preparing for this moment for quite some time. We saw him getting ready since afternoon," Benny blurted. Roxanne's resolve began to waver after hearing that. What the children witnessed was only Lucian's preparation in the afternoon. Little did they know how much time he had invested in turning all the flowers in the garden into traditional medicinal herbs. "I wonder how much time Lucian spent getting everything ready." "Come on, Aunt Roxanne, say yes to Daddy. I want us to become a family," urged Estella. One by one, the kids started persuading her to answer in the affirmative. Meanwhile, Lucian was staring at her, the look in his deep, dark eyes as determined as ever. "I've pondered a lot during your absence in the past 6 years. Now that you're back in my life, I swear I'll never disappoint you again. I'll protect you and also take care of our children. Please trust me once more, Roxanne." His hand that was holding the ring didn't move once as he spoke, not even an inch. "Mommy, Mr. Farwell is the only person we want to be our daddy," exclaimed Archie and Benny simultaneously. Roxanne's eyes darted from side to side as she started having second thoughts. She was wondering whether Lucian's proposal was merely a gesture to make up for their marriage 6 years ago. No matter how hard she tried to let go of her past, it kept coming back to haunt her, for she was deeply hurt by that horrible marriage. There was no way she could forget what was already etched in her heart. In fact, just the word marriage would make her shake in her boots, especially when it came from the person kneeling before her, the culprit of her failed marriage. Roxanne truly wanted to have more faith in Lucian. After all, he had been treating her with utmost sincerity since their reunion. Unfortunately, the sufferings she went through 6 years ago were still buried deep within her heart, hindering her from reaching out to accept the proposal ring. To Roxanne, the ring was an absolute burden, but the children's constant urging prompted her to consider their feelings and needs. Indeed, the two kids needed a father figure in their lives, and their biological father was standing right in front of them. "I've been keeping this secret from the kids for so many years. Now that they finally have someone to call daddy, how could I be so cruel and take that away from them? Moreover, they've directly expressed their love for Lucian." After contemplating, she gave in. The pain from the heartbreak she suffered was no match for the guilt she felt toward her children. When she moved her arm slightly and was about to accept the ring, a loud and clear barking cough rang out from a nearby corner. Roxanne's hand froze in midair as she looked in the direction of the sound and saw Sonia, who appeared out of nowhere. Displeased, the older woman was glowering at her as well as Archie and Benny, who were standing next to her. With that, Roxanne slowly withdrew her outstretched arm. "No, now is not the right time yet. Back then, I selfishly ran away when I was pregnant, neglecting the kids' feelings. If I were to let them reunite with the Farwell family, I should at least wait until everyone has accepted them without a qualm." When Lucian saw that Roxanne was going to retreat, his gaze swept across Estella. "Do you really have the heart to decline? Essie dreams about having a mother. Could you bear to keep her waiting? You've already been absent from her life for 6 long years." His words left Roxanne totally baffled. She looked down at Estella in shock, wondering what Lucian meant. Is it what I think it is? The two kids had yet to realize what Lucian was talking about and simply looked at the two adults innocently. Roxanne took a deep breath and forced herself to stay calm. Then, she turned to Lucian and asked, "What are you talking about? What do you mean when you said I've been absent from Essie's life for 6 long years? I was just an outsider to Essie." Why did he say that? The person who has missed out on watching Essie grow up should be her biological mother, no? Lucian, what has gotten into you? Sonia never wanted Roxanne to be a part of the Farwell family. Furthermore, since Estella had just gone through an eventful afternoon, Sonia was afraid it would be too much for the little girl to take if she discovered the truth all within the same day. Thus, she strode toward Lucian in frustration, trying to prevent him from saying further. It was then that Caden stepped forward and blocked her. "Mrs. Farwell, Mr. Farwell is proposing right now. I think it's best you leave them alone." Caden's tone was polite yet assertive. "Don't you want Ms. Estella to grow up having a complete family?" Sonia grimaced and shouted, "Get lost! Who do you think you are to meddle with the affairs of the Farwell family?" Caden kept his cool and insisted, "This is the instruction given to me by Mr. Farwell. All you need to do is to stay where you are and be a witness." Although Caden dared not lay a finger on Sonia, he was more than capable to get in the woman's way and keep her away from Lucian. Left with no choice, the livid Sonia could only gaze at the duo from afar. She could tell that Roxanne was planning to turn Lucian down just now. However, things might change if Roxanne found out that Estella was her daughter. Before Sonia even had the chance to do something else, Lucian revealed the truth with full confidence. "Essie is your biological daughter. 6 years ago, someone dropped her off at the gate of the Farwell residence without saying a word. I have done the paternity test, and I have the results to prove that she's our daughter." Words eluded Roxanne as her body stiffened. "Essie is my daughter?" At that instant, all the moments she had spent with Estella ever since she returned to the country flashed across her mind like a slideshow. Immediately, she teared up. "Now I know why a familiar feeling crept up on me the first time I met her, and there's no wonder she's so attached to me. Essie is my own flesh and blood, my little baby whom I thought was stillborn." Roxanne was inundated with both joy and sorrow at the same time. For a long while, she struggled to recollect herself. Estella, who was holding Roxanne's hand, was also in shock. She, too, could not believe her ears until Archie and Benny asked questions to clarify their relationship. "Really? Essie is Mommy's child? She's our biological sister." Lucian nodded solemnly. Then, he turned to look at Roxanne and Estella. "I'm sorry for keeping this secret from you all these while. I was just worried that if you reject me and we don't end up together, both you and Essie would be downright disappointed. Essie, I'm so sorry for not telling you this earlier. Ms. Jarvis is the mother you've always wanted. It's time you change the way you address her. She's no longer your Aunt Roxanne." As soon as he finished his sentence, Estella burst out crying all of a sudden. She hugged Roxanne's thigh tightly and bawled, "Mommy! Mommy!" Estella's wails snapped Roxanne out of her trance, and the woman found her face covered in tears. "Oh Essie, I've missed you. I miss you so much, she pulled Estella into her embrace and tightened her arms around the little girl, wishing they would never be separated again. Not a day went by in the past 6 years without her missing the child she thought she had lost. In fact, the thought of that child was the reason she was motivated to wake up from her previous coma. Little did she know the child she had been missing dearly was right by her side all this while. As she thought about everything Estella experienced in the past 6 years, she felt extremely guilty. I've missed out on her life for so many years. Yet, since the day we met, she's been helping me recover from my hurt and pain. I'm so sorry. It's all my fault, Roxanne could not help but apologize profusely. Meanwhile, tears started to well up in Archie and Benny's eyes. They always knew they had a sister, but they thought she was gone. As such, they had been caring for and loving Roxanne on behalf of their little sister as well. Now that they found out that Estella, whom they had been taking care of, was their biological sister all along, the two boys were over the moon. Hooray! Our sister is alive, and she's always been by our side. Benny wiped the tears off his face and looked at his brother, who also shed tears of joy. The latter then nodded vigorously at Benny. Yes. This is great news. Lucian's heart clenched in sorrow when he saw Roxanne and the kids sobbing uncontrollably. You didn't do anything wrong, Roxanne. It was entirely my fault. I should have told you the truth the moment I found out you had no clue about Essie's background, but I had too many reservations. If you need to blame someone, blame me. I never knew she thought Essie was dead all these years. Lucian tightened his grip on the ring. He could not imagine how devastating it must have been for her when she was told the baby was stillborn. I knew nothing. I even resented her for being so cruel to Essie when we finally reunited. Meanwhile, Sonia, too, was dumbfounded. She had always assumed that Roxanne was a heartless person who abandoned her husband and child. That woman thought Essie was dead? Then, how was Essie sent back to the Farwell residence? Roxanne kept Estella locked in her arms and wept for what felt like an eternity before she gradually regained her composure and turned to Lucian, who was still down on one knee. What took you so long to tell me? Do you have any idea how much I've missed her? I've always thought my daughter was dead. Over the years, she had lost count of the times she woke up from her sleep crying whenever she thought about her stillborn child. Guilt and self-reproach inundated Lucian as Roxanne questioned him. Why? Why did I worry so much? Why did I have so many reservations? He was dying for an answer too. If only I had told her about this earlier, could there be a different ending to our story? Unfortunately, it was too late for such wishful thinking. Truth be told, he had missed the best time to reveal the secret to Roxanne. If she had found out earlier, would she cry less? This is wonderful, Mommy. Essie is our little sister. Benny exclaimed, exhilarated as he hugged Roxanne's thigh after he was done crying. Archie bobbed his head in delight, whereas the mother and daughter duo could not stop the tears from streaming down their faces. Lucian stood up and immediately wrapped his arms around the two. Roxanne felt Lucian's arms wrapped tightly around her, and her voice gradually grew weaker until only faint sobs were heard from her. Why? Why did you? Lucian was a man who had dominated the business world for many years, but in the face of Roxanne's tears and questioning, he had no idea how to respond. All he could do was apologize repeatedly. "We want hugs too!" Archie and Benny exclaimed as they hopped around with joy. Happiness was the only emotion left within them after all the crying. To them, the hug they shared was a hug of joy and excitement. Roxanne slowly recollected herself and felt slightly embarrassed when she heard the children's voices. "I can't believe I cried so hard in front of the kids." She then looked at Estella's tear-streaked face as the little girl nestled in her arms and couldn't help breaking into a smile. "She's back! My little angel whom I thought I lost is back, and she's right in my arms." Roxanne swore to herself that she would never abandon Estella ever again. The grim look in Lucian's eyes eased away when he saw Roxanne smiling. Noticing Archie and Benny's eagerness to give them a hug, Lucian bent over and embraced the two little boys as a look of tenderness surfaced in his eyes. At that moment, Archie and Benny were filled with joy, for they found their sister and were hugged by their father. All of a sudden, Lucian let go of them. Just as the two boys were confused as to what was going on, a shiny thing appeared in their line of sight. Upon taking a closer look, they realized it was the ring that Lucian had used to propose moments ago. "Can you please do me a favor and put this ring on your mommy's finger?" Lucian's tone carried an unprecedented gentleness that Archie and Benny had never heard before. The boys exchanged glances. Of course, they would be happy to help Lucian. Since Estella could already change the way she addressed Roxanne, the boys wanted to address Lucian as Daddy too. Benny carefully took his mother's hand while Archie slowly slid the ring through her finger. When their mission was completed, they looked up at Roxanne in anticipation. However, Roxanne was busy trying to comfort Estella at the moment. Her mind was in such a mess that she didn't have the time to pay attention to what the boys were doing, though she had sensed something. "Please stop crying, Essie. I will never leave you again. I promise," said Roxanne, assuring the little girl. "From now on, I'll protect you. I won't let anyone bully our Essie. You're my precious little baby." The woman patted Estella's back as she spoke. Estella was struggling to keep her emotions in check after going through such an eventful day. When she heard Roxanne's promise to her, she asked through sobs, Really? You won't leave me, Mommy?" Roxanne felt her heart clench when she saw how red Estella's eyes were from all the crying. She held out her hand without hesitation and said, "Let's make a pinky promise. From now on, I promise to take you wherever I go." Archie and Benny's eyes were filled with anticipation when they saw their mother's action. Lucian, too, felt uneasy, which was a first. Roxanne caught sight of something shiny out of the corner of her eyes, but she did not pay much attention to it. He was focusing on Estella. However, Estella fixed her gaze on Roxanne's hand. A few seconds later, she smiled through her tears and exclaimed excitedly, "Mommy, did you say yes to Daddy? Then we're going to be a family. Mommy, you won't leave anymore." Overjoyed, she wrapped her arms around Roxanne's neck and hugged the woman tightly. Roxanne froze in shock. "When did I say yes?" As she glanced in the direction where the little girl was staring just now, she noticed the diamond ring that Lucian was holding was currently on her finger. Roxanne remembered the strange sensation she had felt earlier and looked down at Archie and Benny, who were standing by her side. The boys were smiling adorably. Roxanne then turned to look at Lucian, who was gazing affectionately at her. The tender glow in his eyes hindered her from questioning and blaming him. "Mommy, please say yes to Mr. Farwell," Benny pleaded with his cute voice. He grabbed Roxanne's arm and swung it back and forth, his tiny face filled with anticipation. Archie, who was usually reticent, piped up to express his opinion as well. "Mommy, since Essie is our biological sister, you should give her a complete family." Roxanne felt guilty when she heard the boy's words. Archie is referring to himself, too. Ever since they were old enough to understand things, they've always wanted a daddy, but they never expressed their feelings because of me. Deep down, they must yearn for a complete family too. But Roxanne lifted her head and stared at Sonia, who was standing far away. Sonia was standing in the corner where the light didn't reach, and half of her body was concealed within the darkness. The light shone on her face as she looked at Estella, her eyes filled with sorrow and distress. However, when she met Roxanne's eyes, her expression turned cold and indifferent yet again. Roxanne looked away bitterly and regarded Archie and Benny, who were anxiously waiting for her answer. Guilt inundated her. Her reckless decision years ago had turned the boys into monsters in the eyes of their biological grandmother. Roxanne hoped Sonia would sincerely accept the two boys with open arms, and not only because they were part of the Farwell family. "Mommy!" Archie and Benny called out anxiously when they noticed Roxanne remaining silent. Roxanne returned to her senses. A look of conflict flashed across her eyes, but she quickly made up her mind. She placed Estella back down and looked at the boys. "Bring Essie inside first." Archie and Benny seemed to have sensed something and stubbornly refused to leave. Roxanne ruffled their hair in reassurance. "Don't worry. I have already made a promise to Essie. We won't ever be apart again." Archie gazed at his mother momentarily before turning to look at Benny and Estella. "Let's go inside." Reluctance was written all over Benny and Estella's faces when they heard that. However, among the three of them, Archie was the decision-maker. In the end, Benny and Estella gave in after a few moments of wordless stalemate. Estella puffed her cheeks unhappily and held out her hand. "Mommy, pinky promise. We didn't do it just now." Roxanne heaved a sigh of relief and smiled as she hooked her pinky finger with Estella's. Only then did the children turn and enter the mansion. Roxanne turned around and calmly looked at the man before her as she took off the ring on her finger. Upon seeing what she was doing, the other three people in the garden, including Caden, changed their expressions in unison. Caden was totally baffled. "I don't understand. Now that things have come down to this, why is Mrs. Farwell still rejecting Mr. Farwell?" Sonia, on the other hand, let out a long sigh of relief. Looks like Roxanne is still sensible enough to know that the Farwell family will not accept her. Lucian watched as the woman took off the ring. His expression turned grim as bewilderment flashed across his eyes. "Sorry, but I still need time to consider your proposal." Roxanne smiled apologetically. "I'm happy that Essie is my child, and I'm grateful that you took great care of her, but this shouldn't be the reason we remarry." Lucian fixed his gaze on the woman before him and felt a sense of relief wash over him. "Indeed, my proposal was too sudden. I didn't give her time to prepare herself mentally. Plus, I can't compensate for all the harm I caused her 6 years ago in just one day." "Okay. I'll wait for you. Lucian suppressed his disappointment and said, you can take your time to think it over. There's no rush. I'm willing to wait for as long as you need. He then glanced at the diamond ring in Roxanne's hand. I hope you can keep the ring. Put it on when you've thought it through. I'll know your answer by then. Roxanne was touched when she heard that. The guilt she felt grew more intense as she said, thank you. She found it difficult to tell Lucian the reason she rejected him. It wasn't because she did not believe him but because she felt she had wronged Archie and Benny. Caden heaved a sigh of relief when he saw Roxanne keep the ring. Looks like Mr. Farwell still stands a chance, and a good chance at that. However, Sonia's expression darkened. I knew it. She's leaving my son hanging. I'd never let someone like her become a part of the Farwell family. Just as Sonia was thinking about how to make Roxanne give up, the latter suddenly walked toward her. She scrunched her eyebrows and stared at the younger woman unhappily. Why did you come over here? So what if Lucian proposed to you? I'd never accept you as part of our family. Roxanne grinned. Mrs. Farwell, I'm not expecting you to change your impression of me so easily either. I just hope you would treat Archie and Benny better for Essie's sake. After all, they're just children. If there's anything, please come after me instead. Sonia looked at Roxanne suspiciously when she heard the latter's words. What does she mean by that? Why do I have to treat those two bastards better for Essie's sake? Just because she gave birth to Estella doesn't mean she can act all high and mighty before me. Sonia's expression turned grim when her train of thought ended there. I don't need you to tell me what I should or should not do. Helplessness flashed past Roxanne's eyes, but she did not say anything more as she turned around and entered the mansion. Lucian followed after her. Meanwhile, the children were worried about the result of their parents' discussion as they sat on the couch with frowns marring their countenances. They looked toward Lucian and Roxanne in unison when they saw them walking in. Mommy! The children jumped down the couch in an orderly manner and ran toward Roxanne excitedly. The light in their eyes dimmed when they noticed that the ring on Roxanne's finger was gone. They exchanged glances with each other wordlessly, refusing to be the first to talk. In the end, Mommy still didn't say yes to Daddy. Archie and Benny glanced at each other, their eyes filled with disappointment. When can we change the way we address Mr. Farwell? We really want a daddy. Taking note of the children's disappointment, Roxanne felt sorry for them but did not know how to explain it to them. After a moment of silence, she changed the topic abruptly. It's getting late. We should go home. Initially, if things had gone according to Lucian's plan and the proposal had been a success, Roxanne would have stayed the night at the manor. However, since she rejected him, she had no reason to stay any longer. The children got even more upset when they heard that Roxanne wanted to leave. Roxanne frowned as she stared at the children's expressions, troubled. Just as she was wondering how she should persuade the kids, Lucian suddenly spoke up. Let Essie go home with you tonight. You've just reunited with each other as mother and daughter, so I'm sure Essie is reluctant to part with you. The children's eyes lit up when they heard that. Estella looked up at Roxanne with wide eyes that were filled with hope. Roxanne had the same thought, but she did not expect Lucian to suggest it first. Smiling, she bent over to pick Estella up. Of course, you will come home with me, Essie. I promised you we won't ever be apart again. I'll send you guys home. Wearing a tender expression, Lucian stared at his four loved ones, who were visibly happy. The children were over the moon when they heard that Lucian would be sending them home, so much so that they could not help but cheer out loud. Initially, Roxanne was hesitant about Lucian's suggestion. However, when she saw how happy the children were and the man's affectionate gaze, she could not bring herself to turn him down. Carrying Estella with one arm, she was about to reach out and take the boy's hands when Lucian bent down to pick them up. Wow! It's so tall! Excitement was written all over Benny's face when Lucian carried him. Archie obediently stayed put in Lucian's arms, struggling to suppress his excitement. Roxanne could not help but smile when she saw how exhilarated the boys were. She picked up her pace and trailed behind Lucian. When Sonia entered the manor, Roxanne and the others were already gone. "Where's Lucian?" she asked Catalina coldly. Sonia was unhappy to witness Lucian's proposal to Roxanne and wanted to have a chat with her son. A sense of relief washed over Catalina when she thought of the rare happy smiles etched across Lucian and Roxanne's faces when they left. "Mr. Farwell just left, but I'm afraid I don't know where he went," she replied vaguely. Sonia was no fool, and she wouldn't just let the matter go. As such, she narrowed her eyes and pressed on. "How about Roxanne?" Catalina instantly felt uneasy. However, she had no choice but to speak the truth. "She went home." Sonia's expression darkened when she heard that. "Roxanne is going home at this late hour. Do I even need to ask where my son went? He must have sent that woman home." She rejected his proposal, yet he's still treating her so well. Sonia's rage boiled over when she thought of the possibility that Lucian had brought Estella along. Why is the son that I raised so eager to please this woman? To make matters worse, it's a woman that rejected him twice. That fact alone was enough for Sonia to forbid Roxanne from stepping foot into the Farwell residence again. Deep down, Catalina heaved a sigh when she saw Sonia's grim, infuriated expression. Sometimes, she wanted to help Lucian convince Sonia, but she was merely a servant, and she was aware that Sonia looked down on her. Thus, nothing she said would be of any help. Catalina was mindful not to add fuel to the fire as she carefully spoke. "Mrs. Farwell, it's getting late. Please rest early." Sonia shot her an icy glare. "Don't think I don't know you're Roxanne's accomplice." Catalina bowed her head and kept quiet. After a while, she heard Sonia's heavy footsteps walking toward the entrance. Catalina panicked and hurried over. "Mrs. Farwell, where are you going?" "Mr. Farwell instructed me to let you stay the night here since it's late." Sonia stopped in her tracks and, without even looking over her shoulder, replied, "What? Are you worried that I'll go pick on Roxanne? It's so late. I don't care if she's not tired. I am." Catalina felt puzzled when she heard that. "Then where is she storming away to? How can I fall asleep watching my son jump into a trap?" Sonia huffed angrily. With that, she marched out of the manor. This time, Catalina did not get in her way. She only wished Sonia would come around as soon as possible and realize that Lucian and Estella's happiness was of utmost importance. Ever since Roxanne returned, Lucian, who was usually aloof and indifferent, started to express more of his emotions. Estella's autistic condition was gradually improving as well. This family needs Ms. Jarvis. In the meantime, Lucian was driving Roxanne and the kids back to Roxanne's place. Roxanne felt uneasy throughout the whole ride, for she assumed the man had something to say because he was driving unusually slowly. However, as the car slowly came to a stop in front of the mansion, Lucian still remained silent. The woman's anxiousness was replaced with confusion. In contrast, the kids were chattering and having fun at the back. When the car stopped, they didn't cease playing as they hopped off the vehicle and chased each other around in the yard. As soon as the kids were out of hearing range, Roxanne asked, "Do you have something to say to me?" She thought Lucian felt uncomfortable talking to her in front of the children. Yet, the man merely smiled at her. "I just wanted to stay with you guys for a little longer, that's all." He gazed at Roxanne and continued with a sigh, "I don't know when you'll give me an answer, and I'm worried that you'll run away again." "You won't run away again, will you?" A glint of guilt flashed across her eyes as her lips curved into a sheepish smile. "I won't. I already promised you that I'll think about it, so I'll definitely give you an answer." Relief flooded Lucian when he heard her words. He slowly rolled the window back up. "Rest early. Good night." Roxanne waved him goodbye with a smile. "Drive safe." After sending Lucian off, she turned to look at the three kids helplessly. The kids were fooling around, huddling closely together as they had fun. Archie and Benny embraced Estella excitedly. "Yay, we won't have to be apart anymore. You're our sister. We'll treat you 1,000 times, no, 1,000,000 times, better than before." Estella's eyes squinted as a wide smile spread across her face. "I'll do the same to you both." After declaring their promises, they ran to Roxanne's side. Roxanne bent down and gave the trio a big hug. "All right. It's getting late. Let's go to bed." The kids weren't done playing but realized it was indeed late, so they obediently followed their mother into the house. "We want to sleep with Mommy and Essie too," the boys protested in front of Roxanne's bedroom. Estella, too, looked up at Roxanne with puppy eyes, hoping Roxanne would let them all sleep together. That was Roxanne's first time facing such a situation. Ever since Archie and Benny were old enough, they had always slept in a separate room from her, and Roxanne had gotten used to that. She didn't expect the boys to oppose their sleeping arrangements one day. "You're boys. Boys are different from girls, so you can't sleep with Essie," she patiently explained to the kids. Even though they were still young, Roxanne figured she had to teach them about gender differences as early as possible. The kids exchanged disappointed glances with each other. Knowing they couldn't refute their mother, they obediently complied. "Okay, then." Roxanne noted their disappointment and comforted, "Essie will always be with us. You can see her anytime you want to, so it isn't necessary to sleep together." The children's mood brightened again at her reassurance. Roxanne heaved a relieved breath as she watched Archie and Benny return to their room. As she led Estella back to hers, she caught the excitement shining in Estella's eyes. Estella kept calling her mommy over and over again as though to prove she wasn't dreaming. Roxanne patiently acknowledged her each time. I also have a mommy now. Estella leaped into Roxanne's embrace after coming out of the shower, smelling like baby soap. Roxanne caught the little girl and chuckled. You have always had a mommy. It's just that I haven't found you earlier. Now that I found you, I'll never let you go. In the meantime, Archie and Benny had switched off the lights and were lying on their beds in the darkness, but they couldn't fall asleep. Benny climbed out of bed and crossed the room to Archie's bedside. Archie, say. Do you know why Mommy doesn't want to marry Daddy? He asked as he shook Archie's arm. Archie sat up with a troubled look on his face. I don't know either. He paused for a beat before the corners of his lips curled into a smile. But we found our sister. Isn't that great? He exclaimed as though to console Benny and himself. Benny nodded fervently in agreement. They had always thought Estella was their half-sister who shared a father with them. It was such a pleasant surprise to find out they shared the same parents. That also meant their father had never cheated on their mother, and they were the ones who misunderstood Lucian from the start. Their hearts soared with joy at the thought. But when will Mommy tell Daddy we're also his children? Recalling how Lucian lifted them into his arms earlier, Benny couldn't hide his disappointment. I also want to be like Essie. I want to have a mommy and a daddy. I don't want to call Daddy Mr. Farwell anymore. Daddy could lift us up so high into the air. Archie missed his father's embrace as well but chose to put himself in his mother's shoes. Maybe Mommy has her own plans. Benny frowned as he speculated, do you think it's because of Mr. Damaris? Mommy is close to him. He even gave her flowers. Do you think Mommy wants Mr. Damaris to be our daddy? Benny pursed his lips unhappily before continuing, I like Daddy more. Daddy is more handsome than Mr. Damaris, and he cares for Mommy more than Mr. Damaris does. Archie pondered briefly before shaking his head and disagreeing with Benny. I don't think so. Mommy only considers Mr. Damaris a friend at most. After Mommy accepted Daddy, there is a massive difference in the way Mommy interacts with Mr. Damaris and Daddy. The look in Mommy's eyes whenever she looks at Daddy is different from when she looks at Mr. Damaris. Hearing Archie's disagreement, Benny felt even more perplexed. Then why didn't Mommy say yes to Daddy? Archie suddenly remembered Roxanne did reach out her hand when Lucian proposed, but she quickly withdrew her hand upon hearing their grandmother's coughing. Realization dawned upon him when his train of thought ended there. He finally understood what his mother was thinking. I got it. His eyes were gleaming brightly, but his eyebrows were furrowed. He felt bad for his mother. Noticing the change in Archie's expression, Benny hurriedly held onto Archie's arm. Why? Tell me. Archie turned to Benny with a solemn look on his face. It's because of Grandma. She still hasn't accepted Mommy and us. Mommy doesn't want us to suffer with her, so she rejected Daddy. The light in Benny's eyes dimmed when he heard Archie's explanation. His heart clenched for his mother, too. Indeed, Grandma's attitude toward us and Mommy has always been terrible. I don't understand why, though. What did Mommy ever do wrong to deserve such hatred from Grandma? Mommy is the best mother in the world in my eyes. I'm sure she felt pressured to reject Daddy because of Grandma. But she never tells us these. She keeps everything to herself. What should we do to get Grandma to accept Mommy? Even though Roxanne and Estella had been by each other's side a lot recently, their feelings toward each other were much different from before after the truth was revealed. Roxanne had so much she wanted to tell her lost daughter. Similarly, Estella had a lot she wanted to say to her mother. The two lay in bed and chatted endlessly, never running out of topics to talk to each other about. I drew a lot of pictures of me and my mommy, but none of those mommies in the pictures were as pretty as you. Estella looked at Roxanne with glee in her eyes, her smile so sweet and lovely that it softened Roxanne's heart. Now that I found you, can you draw pictures with me, mommy? Roxanne's heart nearly melted into a puddle at her question. Sure. Let's do everything together. Estella's eyes sparkled with delight. Archie and Benny too. I want to do everything with them too. Roxanne promised with a laugh. Archie and Benny will be by your side too. Mommy, Estella suddenly whispered into Roxanne's ear. Playing along with the little girl, Roxanne put on a curious expression. What's wrong? Estella said softly, can you tell me who is Archie's and Benny's daddy? Even though mommy and daddy are already together, I still wish they can progress to the next stage. I know this is something that's been bothering daddy. The smile on Roxanne's face stiffened ever so slightly when she heard Estella's question. Archie's and Benny's father. How am I supposed to tell Essie that she and the boys share the same parents? If I tell her the truth, will she ask why I refused to say yes to Lucian even though we are an actual family in the first place? Despite knowing that Estella wouldn't have thought of that question with her current level of intellect, Roxanne still couldn't help worrying about it. Archie's and Benny's daddy. You'll know who he is in the future. Roxanne gently caressed Estella's head, her tone laced with guilt. Disappointment crossed Estella's face when she didn't get the answer she wanted. But no matter who their father is, we will only share one daddy in the future. With that thought in mind, Estella was once again filled with joy. Then can they please come over so we could all sleep together, she pleaded with an adorable voice. Roxanne was about to decline the little girl's request when the latter burrowed deeper into her embrace. I feel bad for them. I have a daddy and a mommy, but they only have a mommy. Roxanne was instantly guilt-ridden when Estella mentioned the absence of the boy's father. As penitence got the better of her, she sighed internally and decided to make an exception just this one time. Go on. Get your brothers to come over. Roxanne watched Estella put on her pajama and led her to the boys' room. In the boys' room, Archie and Benny were sitting on Archie's bed with looks of frustration on their faces. When they heard the knock on their door, they quickly concealed their troubled expressions before letting Roxanne enter. You boys haven't slept yet? Good. Come over to our room, and let's sleep together. Roxanne was confused when she saw the boys sitting on Archie's bed but didn't comment on it. But you have to put on your pajamas. Elation immediately replaced the boys' gloomy mood. They put on cute kawanisis before hopping to Roxanne's room in excitement. The three kids got even more worked up than they already were as they gathered together. Roxanne was already exhausted, but the children were still up and playing. She regretted her decision of letting the kids sleep in the same room. But since they're already here, I can't go back on my word. All I can do is stay up with them. The children finally fell asleep at midnight. When Roxanne woke up the next morning, the kids were huddled together in a tangle of limbs, hugging each other as they slept soundly. She had no idea how they ended up like that, but they showed no signs of waking up. Warmth spread in Roxanne's chest as she watched them sleep like babies. "Essie, my baby girl. I'm not dreaming. My daughter is really back." Roxanne planted a kiss on each of their foreheads before heading downstairs to prepare breakfast for them. As her tumultuous emotions began to calm, she belatedly recalled something important. Estella was born with Archie and Benny, but why was she sent to Lucian? Yet I was completely clueless about the whole incident. Also, it was evident from Lucian and Sonia's attitudes that they didn't know what happened either. The possible reason behind it sent chills down Roxanne's spine. Who could have done such a thing? What was that person's motive for doing so? In the meantime, chaos erupted all over Horrington when the news was revealed. As one of the prestigious families in Horrington, the Pearson family was prominent and capable. Coupled with the marriage contract they shared with the Farwell family, their status in society had always been stable. However, the shares of one of the Pearson family's branch companies plummeted overnight. Numerous comments and discussions regarding the incident flooded the internet. One netizen commented, "I heard the Pearson family has offended the Farwell family. This is the consequence of their action." Another refuted, "No way. The Farwell family and the Pearson family have a marriage contract with each other. They're basically one big family. Why would the Farwell family go up against the Pearson family?" One supplemented, "You guys haven't heard about it? I heard through the grapevine that the Farwell family has long since planned to annul the marriage, and the Pearson family has been begging them not to." That comment attracted more attention from the public. Meanwhile, Archie and Benny had just woken up in Roxanne's place. Archie habitually glimpsed at the stock market news to check the latest rise and fall of shares. As he flipped through the articles, he accidentally noticed the plummeting of shares of a Pearson family-affiliated corporation. Many shareholders were discussing the matter on the internet. Archie's expression shifted subtly at the news. Catching the look on his brother's face, Benny walked over to his side in confusion. Archie tilted the screen to Benny, showing him the news. "Whoa!" Benny's eyes sparkled. "Is it Daddy's doing?" Archie tilted his head to the side. "Who else could it be?" Benny rubbed his palms together in exhilaration. "No, this isn't enough. I have to add fuel to the fire. How dare that evil woman bully Mommy?" He then reached for Archie's computer, his fingers furiously typing away on the keyboard, writing a long comment. Before long, the discussion on the internet took a new turn. A comment read, "Have any of you heard? The daughter of the Pearson family is actually a home wrecker." Another netizen commented, "That's right. I heard she was the one who forced the legitimate wife away. I wonder what means she used to secure a marriage engagement with the Farwell family. No wonder the Farwell family delayed the wedding for so long." Someone typed a question, "What about now?" One of the netizens responded, "The wife is back." Mr. Farwell repented and turned over a new leaf. Naturally, the homewrecker needs to be kicked out of the house. That discussion soon reigned over the other speculations, and the netizens started condemning Aubrey. One of the netizens typed, "Homewreckers are shameless." Another netizen commented, "I can't believe she has the audacity to meddle in someone else's marriage. How shameless." A satisfied smile formed on Benny's lips as he read the public's comments about Aubrey. Humph! Evil woman! That'll show you for calling mommy a home wrecker. You're the one who's the home wrecker. Mr. Farwell. At Farwell Group, the staff in charge of publishing comments on the internet noticed a shift in the trend of the public's opinion, so he hurriedly went to seek further instruction from Lucian. Lucian glanced at the screen and furrowed his brows. He saw the internet was flooded with speculations about his relationship with Roxanne and criticisms toward Aubrey. We didn't do this. We merely released some news about the Pearson family. This statement mentioning the original spouse came out of nowhere. Should we attempt to sway the public opinion again? The employee hurriedly explained. Lucian rejected the suggestion. That's not needed. Just let it be. Find out where the statement about the original spouse stemmed from. The employee replied guiltily, I investigated the source, but the information was leaked from a virtual IP address that does not correspond to a physical network interface. Hearing that, Lucian narrowed his eyes and was immediately reminded of the previous incident involving Pearson Group's computer malfunction. Farwell Group's technicians were considered one of the best in their expertise. Even so, they failed to find out the mastermind's identity. Could it be the same person this time? After all, that person scolded Aubrey as an evil woman last time and is now sparking discussions on the internet about Aubrey being a home wrecker. Home wrecker. At the thought of that term, Archie and Benny's faces flashed across Lucian's mind. Nevertheless, he quickly dismissed the idea. Those two boys are still so young. How could they be capable of accomplishing something like this? If the same person didn't orchestrate these incidents, and my technicians failed to track the masterminds down on both occasions, I think it's time for Farwell Group to hire new people. He recollected his thoughts and instructed solemnly, I got it. Ignore this matter for now. Update me again if there are any more changes in the trend. The employee let out an inward sigh of relief before promptly agreeing. Soon, opinions of varying stances appeared online. A netizen wrote, let's not make random guesses without evidence to support our claim. The two families have yet to announce anything, right? Another commented, that's right. Don't forget that Mr. Farwell had personally accompanied Ms. Pearson to the hospital and stayed by her side throughout the night before. There's no way he would have done something like that if not out of true love. After seeing that, Benny was speechless and at a loss for what to do. Daddy hasn't made any official announcement, so I don't suppose I can do that on his behalf, right? Hence, he could only tap on his keyboard furiously to delete all the comments rooting for Aubrey. Still, the netizens posted more, no matter how many comments he deleted. Some people were even convinced by the remarks and switched sides to support Aubrey. Benny sulked as he couldn't remove all the distasteful comments in time. Yet, all of a sudden, the phrase marriage engagement between the Farwell and Pearson family suddenly entered the trending list. The word hot was added in red capital letters at the back of the title. After clicking into the title, more astonishing descriptions were displayed before Benny's eyes. Farwell Group declared the marriage engagement with the Pearson family had been cancelled from today onward. The reason behind the Pearson family's overnight downfall is shocking. Benny was taken aback. Following the statement released by Farwell Group, those posts discussing Lucian harboring true love toward Aubrey gradually quieted down. A netizen even commented, "Rumor has it Mr. Farwell brought his original spouse to the hospital and took care of her all night, not Aubrey." The netizen also deliberately attached the picture from the newspaper the other day and a photo of Aubrey's profile for comparison. Upon scrutiny, although the person's identity couldn't be determined through the blurry profile, she was undoubtedly not Aubrey. One netizen wrote, "Although this is all we can see, I must say the original spouse's facial features look prettier." Another commented, "Oh my! I've been complimenting the original spouse all along. She's so gorgeous and is a match made in heaven with Mr. Farwell." Subsequently, the public's view on the internet did a 180. All of a sudden, Roxanne and Aubrey became two starkly contrasting figures in the netizens' opinion. Meanwhile, at the Pearson residence, Aubrey locked herself inside her room without consuming any food or water upon returning from the Farwell residence. A single thought filled her mind for the entire day. "I'm doomed. No one can save me this time. My life is completely ruined. I can't believe that," Roxanne told Lucian to let the police handle this matter. "I'd rather die than spend the rest of my life in prison." The more she dwelled on that, the more furious and terrified she became. As a result, Aubrey didn't pay any attention to the news on the internet. Samuel currently loved and hated his daughter at the same time. Aubrey was his only daughter, so how could he have the heart to send her to jail? If she hadn't done those foolish things, the Pearson family wouldn't have met its downfall. Early in the morning, the person in charge of each of Pearson Group's branch companies flooded his phone with calls. All of them informed him about their company's stocks crashing out of control, and all their business partners requested to dissolve their collaborations. Regardless of how much Samuel cared for Aubrey as her father, the fatherly affection he harbored toward her gradually dissipated as he answered each call. While he was boiling with rage, Gina, wearing a tear-stained face, rushed into the study. "Samuel, bad news. Hurry up and look at this. How can these people on the internet criticize our family and Aubrey in this manner?" Gina wept almost immediately after reading the news on her phone that morning. The Pearson family had never endured such humiliation since they established their presence in Horrington many years ago. Grimacing, Samuel took her phone and glanced at the screen. He tightened his grip around the device when he read how the netizens berated the Pearson family to the extent of almost crushing the phone with his hand. "Unfilial daughter. That unfilial daughter. Does she realize how much trouble she has brought to the Pearson family? What should we do now, Samuel?" Gina gazed imploringly at her husband in a daze. Samuel was still mad, and in a fit of rage, he shoved her, causing the latter to fall to the ground. "All you know how to do is cry. You're useless during desperate times." With that, he stormed toward Aubrey's room and banged on her door. In a state of shock, Aubrey showed no inclination to open the door. The next second, the sound of someone kicking the door reverberated suddenly. Samuel booted the door as he scolded in a rage, "Bastard! Come out here and see the mess you made. What did I tell you yesterday? I asked you to go to the Farwell residence and apologize nicely. What did you do instead, you incompetent trash? You could have secured the position of Mrs. Farwell instead of letting Roxanne seize the opportunity if you didn't act on your own accord. If she hadn't treated Essie insincerely, the kid wouldn't have refused to accept her even after so long, and Lucian wouldn't have delayed fulfilling his promise to marry Aubrey for 6 years. The more Samuel thought about it, the angrier he got. Overwhelmed by wrath, he successfully kicked down the door. Aubrey's heart sank when she saw her father standing at the doorway with bloodshot eyes. "He didn't behave like this when I came home yesterday. Something must have happened again." "What's the matter, Dad? What happened?" She gazed at her father in panic, wanting to inquire if the police were there to look for her. Before she could do so, Samuel interrupted her. "How dare you ask that question? Look at what you've done." He flung the phone at her as he spoke. Aubrey dodged on instinct, preventing the phone from hitting the corner of her eye. She picked up the device and glanced at the screen. The discussions on the internet continued refreshing, and the comments about the Pearson family latching onto the Farwell family had sunk to the bottom of the page. Displayed before Aubrey's eyes were everyone's compliments toward Roxanne and their disdain toward Aubrey as the home wrecker. "Ah!" cried out Aubrey as she violently threw the phone in her hand away. "I'll ensure that Roxanne regrets the day she was born. She must be the one responsible. She has to be." With that, Aubrey was about to rush out when Samuel stopped her in her tracks. "Have you forgotten about what happened at the Farwell residence yesterday? Do you actually think it's a good idea to confront Roxanne now?" rebuked Samuel. Aubrey seemed even madder after listening to that. "You're my father. Can you really sit by and do nothing while those people cursed at me online? Since our family has nothing left to lose, I'm going to drag that down to the abyss with me." At that point, Samuel could no longer hold his anger in, so he slapped his daughter so hard that she fell into her bed. "You're the reason our family is ruined, yet you show no remorse. In fact, you seem more than ready to repeat your mistakes. Ow, you listen to me well. I don't care if you have to kneel before Lucian or grovel at his feet, you will convince the man to stop keeping our family in his crosshair because you're responsible for this mess. Otherwise, nobody can save you." If the Pearson family were to crumble and his daughter was to be subjected to legal procedures by then, Samuel would not be able to do anything even if he wanted to. Nevertheless, all Aubrey could hear after getting smacked was the buzzing sound in her ear. When she finally regained her hearing, the first thing she heard was her father telling her to kneel before Lucian and apologize. "Fine. I'll beg for Lucian's mercy. I'll go right away," responded Aubrey with nothing but hate in her eyes, and after giving her father a cold glance, she got up and rushed out of the room. With his eyebrows tightly knitted, Samuel could not help but feel worried when he thought of the look in Aubrey's eyes before she left. Still, there was not much he could do about Aubrey, given the situation of his family. "Aubrey." Gina just so happened to see the swollen-faced Aubrey storm out of the room when she arrived at the scene. "Hey, hold up. Calm down. Where are you going?" questioned Gina while trying to catch up with Aubrey. Aubrey, however, turned a deaf ear as she rushed out of the house before zooming off in her car. After witnessing that, Gina returned to the room in a panic to speak to Samuel. "What is Aubrey planning to do? Is she going to do something stupid again? You have to stop her. You're the reason she's who she is today, so you should figure it out yourself," uttered Samuel, who was already having an unbearable headache, before striding into the study and slamming the door shut. Left alone in Aubrey's messy bedroom to stare at the door Samuel had kicked down and the smashed phone, Gina burst into tears. There was a grimness in Aubrey's eyes when she finally floored the brakes after driving for quite a distance. He expects me to apologize to Lucian? In his dreams. This is all that's fault, so why do I nevertheless? The Pearson family had already run out of resources they could use, so after some thought, Aubrey took out her phone and tried to call Frida. When she failed to reach Frida after several attempts, Aubrey sneered and decided to send the woman a message instead. Don't forget that we're in the same boat. So far, Lucian knows I added the bacteria, but he has no idea where it came from. How much better do you think your family will do than mine after he finds out about that? In less than a minute after the text message was sent, Aubrey received a call from Frida. Aubrey, I only noticed your missed calls now because I was in the shower. What's up? Frida sounded very concerned. It was as if the engagement between the Farwells and the Pearsons was never cancelled, and they were still on good terms. Aubrey knew that Frida only called because of the message she had sent, but since she still needed Frida's help, she decided to play along. With that thought in mind, Aubrey coldly bit her lower lip. Nothing much. Seeing how we haven't seen each other for a few days, I wanted to ask you out. Frida hesitated for a few seconds, but because of Aubrey's threat, she had no choice but to agree to the woman's request. She wanted to follow Jonathan's advice, but what happened to the Pearsons was too shocking to ignore. Frida worried that her family would be in trouble if Aubrey really did sell her out. After confirming the place to meet, the two ended the phone call. Then, Frida got changed and was about to walk out the door when she bumped into Jonathan. Where are you going? Jonathan gazed suspiciously at his sister. In response, Frida plastered on a smile. Nowhere. I've stayed home for too long, so I wanted to go for a walk. Jonathan was still unconvinced, however. I don't care if you have to stay home for another few days. Just look at those comments online. You'd better stay away from Aubrey if you don't want our family to end up like hers. Standing still and staring coldly at Frida, Jonathan had no intention of getting out of his sister's way. On top of feeling guilty, Frida was afraid to meet Aubrey then, so she nodded meekly and returned to her room. Nonetheless, she eventually gave in to her anxiety and called Aubrey. My brother's not letting me leave the house. I bet he doesn't want you to meet me because he has no idea what you did, voiced Aubrey through gritted teeth. Frida nodded guiltily. I can't let him know. Otherwise, he'll kill me before Lucian does. Does that mean you're not afraid that Lucian will find out? Sneered Aubrey. After being rendered speechless for a moment, Frida hurriedly reassured Aubrey of her loyalty to the woman. I believe you, Aubrey, and I'll do my best to help you in any way I can. However, don't worry. I won't tell Lucian even if the plan fails, but you have to be a part of it, interrupted Aubrey unceremoniously as though she knew what Frida wanted to say. Frida finally breathed a sigh of relief after hearing that. What do you need me to do? On the other side, Aubrey was sitting alone in the corner of a cafe. Because of how widespread the online public opinion was, almost everyone in Horrington was discussing the matter. In fact, it was difficult to find anyone who did not recognize Aubrey. Even the waiter who served her coffee gave her a dirty look. Aubrey could not help but harden her face when reminded of her situation. How have things developed on the internet? After turning on her computer, Frida was unsure how to reply to Aubrey because the truth about Roxanne was close to becoming public knowledge. Almost everyone was praising Roxanne for her beauty and kindness and saying what a perfect match she was for Lucian. On the other hand, Aubrey, who used to be put on a pedestal, became a laughingstock overnight. Some even said that Aubrey made up the story that she was Lucian's first crush. What's going on? Aubrey's heart sank when she heard nothing but silence from the other end of the line. Frida could just imagine Aubrey's face after the latter read the comments even though they were only speaking over the phone. She said dryly, "You should take a look for yourself, Aubrey." Aubrey turned on the speakerphone and opened her social media app grimly. Someone commented, "Aubrey is shameless. How dare she claim to be Mr. Farwell's first crush when she's really just a homewrecker? If he truly had feelings for her, why would he have married his original spouse?" Another seconded, "That's right. Whatever feelings Mr. Farwell had for his first crush would have been gone by now after 6 long years. Moreover, Mr. Farwell acts as if he doesn't even know her. If you ask me, his original spouse is his first crush. Aubrey is just a nobody." The comments were scathing and merciless, leaving no room for doubt about the netizens' disdain toward Aubrey. Aubrey had to muster up all her energy to resist the urge to throw her phone across the room. "Roxanne, that," she cursed through gritted teeth. Frida tried to calm her down. "Calm down, Aubrey. There's no point getting angry about this right now." She was worried that Aubrey might do something foolish and drag herself into it. Aubrey took a few deep breaths before she spoke again. "Do you know any public relations company? I'm going to make that pay for what she said." Frida hesitated upon hearing this. How is this any different from what she did the last time? I'm still the one who's handing the knife over to her as she commits murder. I'll be a goner if either Jonathan or Lucian finds out. Just let it slide, Aubrey. Where are you going to get the money to recruit the help of a public relations company with the state your family is in right now?" She tried to dissuade Aubrey. However, Aubrey saw through her right away. "I'll contact them myself. Don't worry. I won't get you involved. As for the money, I can afford it. I'll do everything in my power to expose that's true colors to the world." Frida reluctantly gave her a number, having no reason to reject her at this point. Aubrey didn't say anything anymore after getting what she wanted. She hung up the call and contacted the public relations company. "Hello, what kind of business collaboration are you looking for?" came the prompt response from the other end. Aubrey said through gritted teeth, "I want you to spread the news about the original spouse of Farwell Group's CEO." The scandal involving the Farwells had caused a huge uproar online. It was only natural for a professional public relations firm to be aware of it. The person on the other end of the line immediately became cautious when he heard Aubrey's request. "And you are?" Aubrey replied coldly, "Aubrey Pearson." Hearing that, the other party ended the call immediately. Aubrey dialed the number again through clenched teeth, her face darkening. "I'll pay you 30 million to post the news. It's not fake, I promise." The other party's resolve started to waver when they heard the offer of such a large sum. However, they still didn't dare to take the risk. 50 million. I'll pay you 10 million more when everything is over, so 60 million in total. Aubrey added. Aubrey had prepared the 50 million Corey requested back then, but little did she know she would be using the money for this instead of what she had intended. In the end, the other party gave in to the temptation of money and agreed to her terms after much hesitation. Okay. What do you want us to post? Aubrey's gaze turned icy as she delivered the message she had prepared beforehand. Archie and Benny chuckled in delight as the public view tilted in favor of their mother. Estella woke up and rubbed her eyes groggily. Archie, Benny, what are you guys doing? Archie and Benny closed their laptop immediately when they heard Estella's voice. They shook their heads in unison. It's nothing. We're just browsing the stock market. They decided to handle the chaos that was going down online themselves. Estella had no need to get involved. Estella felt that something was off as she stared at the boys. However, nothing came to mind, as she was still groggy from her sleep. She took a moment to gather her thoughts before getting out of bed to wash up. Archie and Benny wanted to continue monitoring the online discussion, but Roxanne called them down for breakfast. After Estella washed up, they put their laptop away and went down. Roxanne noticed that her two boys were in high spirits during breakfast and couldn't help but ask, "What's the occasion?" Archie and Benny exchanged looks and replied, "Nothing special. We're just glad to have our sister back." Estella nodded enthusiastically in agreement. "I'm very happy too." Roxanne didn't dwell further on the matter upon hearing that. Her heart warmed as she stared at the kids' smiling faces. She scooped some food onto their plates. "I'll take you out for some fun after breakfast, okay? It's been a while since I took them out after the last incident. Besides, I've found my little darling this time around." Roxanne would always be reminded of the child she had lost whenever she took Archie and Benny out to play. However, her dream had finally come true, as she had found her missing daughter. The kids were overjoyed when they heard Roxanne was going to take them out to have some fun. "Okay," they shouted in unison. Roxanne couldn't help but smile. Their happiness was contagious. At the same time, Aubrey managed to bribe her way through the public relations firm and was posting anything and everything about Roxanne on the World Wide Web, causing the public's view of Roxanne to shift drastically once again. Someone wrote, "His original spouse? You mean Roxanne Jarvis? Haven't you read the news?" Her research institute was provided with the opportunity to join the Damaris's project because of her relationship with Jack Damaris. "Women like her can't be trusted." Another commented, "You can still find pictures of Roxanne and Jack having dinner online. They have yet to clarify matters up till now. She's just another one of those ES in the medical industry if you ask me." Various posts defaming Roxanne started to pop up. At the same time, others still believed in Roxanne and thought the scandal between her and Jack was just mere speculation. Lucian's decision to call off his engagement told them everything they needed to know. However, soon after, another piece of scandal erupted on the internet again. The netizens started discussing again. Someone wrote, "Rumors have it that Roxanne already has 2 kids aged around 4 to 5. It has only been 6 years since she left the Farwells. Who fathered her children? It couldn't be Mr. Farwell, could it?" Another replied, "That would be an understatement." Roxanne left the Farwells on her own accord back then. Who knows? Maybe she left because she had gotten herself pregnant and was worried that she wouldn't be able to explain herself. She's probably back to get her hands on the Farwells' wealth now that her children have grown up. A third agreed, that is entirely possible. She must be really good at scheming if that's the case. Who knows? She might have played dirty tricks to make Mr. Farwell call off his engagement with Ms. Pearson. After the public discovered that Roxanne had 2 mysterious children, they began to turn their backs on her. Aubrey chuckled in delight as the public showed disdain for Roxanne. Roxanne, I'm going to let you get a taste of your own medicine. Early in the morning that day, Sonia read the comments on the internet. She was furious when she found out that Lucian had sent Roxanne to the hospital and had even spent the night there taking care of her. She could still recall the incident vividly. Roxanne had just returned to the country not long ago, and Lucian had insisted on taking care of her. Sonia read through the comments furiously. Everyone had different opinions regarding the matter. Public opinion was swayed. Sonia's face darkened when she saw a comment about how well Lucian and Roxanne complemented each other. They're a good match? Since when has she ever been worthy of my son? On what grounds? Certainly not her looks, nor her 2 illegitimate children. Eking of which, I've yet to find out who fathered those 2 children. Just as she was about to blow up, the public's view of Roxanne took a sharp turn for the worse, and that calmed Sonia down. However, she suddenly caught sight of a comment that read, Roxanne left the Farwells on her own accord back then. Who knows? Maybe she left because she had gotten herself pregnant and was worried that she wouldn't be able to explain herself. She's probably back to get her hands on the Farwells' wealth now that her children have grown up. Sonia's face contorted in anger as she read the comment. Now that I think about it, Archie and Benny look to be about Estella's age. But who knows? She could have lied about their age. No wonder she left so hastily back then. Sonia found the thought to be unbearable as she considered the possibility. No matter what, Roxanne is very suspicious. I won't let her get her way. Sonia put her phone away, left the mansion, and drove straight to Roxanne's house. It was noon by the time she arrived at Roxanne's door. However, no one was home. Sonia got back into her car and checked her phone, only to find that the public was having a heated discussion about Roxanne. Rumors and speculations spread like wildfire. Some even suspected that Roxanne had known Jack since a long time ago. The Farwells were starting to get a bad rap because of this speculation. One comment read, the fact that the Farwells were unaware of Roxanne's infidelity with Mr. Farwell is quite concerning. I wonder how they judge people. I hope the employees of Farwell Group don't act two-faced like her. Someone asked, what is the last name of Ms. Jarvis' kids? Can someone please tell me? Sonia almost fainted in anger as she read the comments. I knew it. The Farwells will surely turn into a laughingstock when I let her marry into the family. I can't believe how quickly this has happened. I need to find a way to settle this once and for all. Sonia parked her car in front of Roxanne's gates and spent a good while there before finally coming up with an idea. The most important thing for me to do right now is to restore the Farwells' reputation. The relationship my son has with Roxanne right now is the root cause of it all. So if his fiancée is someone other than Roxanne? Sonia made up her mind and immediately drove to the Pearson residence. Even though she was dissatisfied with how Aubrey had treated Estella, she was the only one who could take Roxanne out of the picture now. At most, I'll let her be Lucian's fiancée on paper. After all, no one knows about her deeds yet. Having her around won't harm the Farwells' reputation. At the Pearson residence, Samuel had been receiving calls non-stop since morning due to all the online drama and the Farwells' pressure. They were either calling to report how terrible his subsidiaries were doing or to discuss the termination of contracts with the headquarters. Things had been tense at the Pearson residence since morning. Even though Gina was worried about her daughter, she didn't dare call to check in on her with Samuel around. That afternoon, Samuel remained holed up in his study while Gina sat alone at the kitchen table, unable to summon the appetite for lunch in the midst of such tension and uncertainty. Nobody touched the food even when it had turned cold. That was the scene that greeted Sonia when she arrived, and she couldn't help but notice that Aubrey's room was located directly opposite the mansion main entrance. "Mrs. Farwell, what brings you here?" Gina was instantly reminded of the previous day's ordeal when she caught sight of Sonia. A shiver ran down her spine, causing her to stand up shakily. Samuel also emerged from his study when he heard the doorbell ring. As soon as he saw Sonia at the door, Samuel ended his phone call and hurried downstairs to meet her. "Mrs. Farwell, what brings you here?" "Aubrey has realized she is in the wrong, and we Pearsons have learned our lesson. Please don't make things any more difficult for us." Samuel felt embarrassed as he spoke. Sonia frowned as she looked around the Pearson residence. She noticed that there were only 2 simple dishes on the dining table that had not been touched. Samuel and Gina appeared exhausted and worn out despite it only having been one night since they had last met. They seemed to have aged a decade overnight, with worry and stress etched into their features. Sonia's heart ached for them, as they had been good friends for many years. Reminded of Aubrey's actions, she sighed. "How could you allow Aubrey to do something like that to Essie? He Farwells have never mistreated you, have we?" Samuel and Gina exchanged looks, sensing that Sonia was starting to soften. Samuel said in a resigned voice, "We didn't want this to happen either. Aubrey was foolish and has learned her lesson. She said she went down the wrong path because she was desperate to marry Lucian." Gina chimed in, "Aubrey has been locking herself in her room since coming home yesterday. We've had a serious talk with her about it and she's learned her lesson now. She will apologize and make things right with Lucian and Essie." Sonia's heart ached as she witnessed the sincerity and exhaustion etched on the faces of her 2 friends. She stared at them as if she was assessing how sincere their apology was. Samuel and Gina both had their heads lowered. One was red in the face with anger, and the other had red, blotchy eyes caused by crying. They do look like they have regretted on their actions. Sonia slowly retracted her gaze and sat down on the couch in the living room. Aubrey has indeed gotten carried away. Things wouldn't have turned out like this if she had listened to me back then and tried her best to get along with Lucian and Essie, she said regretfully. Samuel and Gina immediately caught on. "Mrs. Farwell, we have realized what a huge mistake we have made and have learned our lesson now. Could you try to persuade Mr. Farwell to let things slide?" Sonia didn't reply to them as she sat with crossed legs on the couch like an elegant lady. Gina and her husband were at a loss for a moment. They initially thought Sonia came to defuse the tension. Seeing Sonia putting up an arrogant look left them unsure of what to do. Gina tested the waters by pleading, "Mrs. Farwell, we will heed your advice and not do stupid things anymore. Please help us." As soon as she finished speaking, she noticed Sonia's gaze fall on Samuel, who stood beside her. Gina immediately caught her drift and cleared her throat to get Samuel's attention. Clearly, Sonia still thought the Pearson family was of use to her, and she wanted them to pledge their loyalty to her. Given that Gina lacked authority in the Pearson family, Sonia hinted at Samuel so he could make the first move. They might have been friends for years, but after all the things the Pearson family had done, Gina knew they were now at Sonia's mercy. Their friendship had become solely based on interests and more transactional. Of course, Samuel could read Sonia's mind too, but after much pondering, he still could not bear to give up Pearson Group. "But if I were to turn her down, I might risk losing the entire Pearson Group, let alone my position of influence in the company." Samuel had no choice but to grit his teeth and agreed. "In the future, neither the Pearson family nor Pearson Group will go against your wishes. That's my promise to you." Only then did Sonia nod in satisfaction and put her crossed legs down. "Where is Aubrey?" She looked up and glanced at the broken door of the bedroom where Aubrey was. Gina let out a nervous laugh. "She had a fight with Samuel in the morning and ran away. I can call her back immediately if you wish to see her." She was worried that her daughter might engage in dangerous behavior but did not care to intervene because of Samuel. Now that Sonia had mentioned it, she had an excuse to bring her daughter back. There was a hint of displeasure in Sonia's eyes. How could Aubrey throw a tantrum and run away when something like this happened? "I'm surprised to learn that she's this kind of person." Samuel and Gina felt something was amiss when they noticed the change in Sonia's expression. "Forget it." Sonia withdrew her gaze. "Tell her to stop causing more trouble when she returns later." A question stirred in the hearts of Samuel and Gina. "Does the fact that Sonia came to look for us mean there's hope for us to continue with the engagement?" Yet, what Sonia uttered next completely shattered their fantasy. "Though the engagement between the Farwells and Pearsons is off, I will not allow Roxanne to marry into our family since she has tarnished Farwell Group's reputation." Fury was written all over Sonia's face. "I'll talk to Lucian on your behalf, but if Aubrey were to do anything stupid again, she'd better watch her own back." Gina and Samuel looked puzzled. "Why is she doing all this if she doesn't want us to proceed with the engagement?" Nonetheless, the two dared not ask further as they knew how furious Sonia was. They responded, "We will keep an eye on Aubrey and make sure she doesn't do anything stupid again." Sonia glanced at them before walking out of the door. "I'm glad the Farwell family has this chance to teach the Pearson family a lesson. At least they'll no longer dare to step on our toes." The flattery on Samuel's face gradually disappeared as he watched Sonia depart. "I can't believe I just relinquished the authority of the Pearson family because of my useless daughter." Meanwhile, Roxanne knew nothing about the online controversy. After breakfast, she took the kids to the beach. At first, Archie and Benny were a little worried about the changes in public opinion on the internet, but they instantly forgot about it the moment they got into the car. Roxanne had not taken them on a road trip in a while, so they looked forward to it. They were especially excited that she brought Estella along. "Mommy, where are we going?" Estella kept calling Roxanne mommy as if she wanted to make up for the years she missed. While observing the change of scenery outside the car, Archie and Benny could not help but ask curiously, "Mommy, it seems you're driving out of town. Oh, you're not planning to sell us now that you have Essie, are you?" Benny acted shocked and pleaded in a tender, baby-like voice, "Mommy, please don't do this to us. We're good kids, and we'll help look after our little sister." Estella, too, nodded earnestly. "If you insist, sell me along with them as well." However, not long after making that remark, she tilted her head, looking troubled. "But I love mommy very much too. Mommy, don't sell us, please." Roxanne's heart melted as she was charmed by their innocent and endearing words. "When did I say I was going to sell you? I'm taking all of you to the beach because the weather is lovely." It was the same beach she had visited when she first found out she was pregnant. A few days ago, Lucian had taken her there again. That visit brought back all of Roxanne's memories of the place. When she was pregnant, she wanted to bring the little ones to the beach even though they were still in her womb. As soon as the children heard they were going to the beach, their minds instantly flooded with memories of their last vacation. Come to think of it, our last vacation was also our first family trip. The last vacation held a special place in Archie's and Benny's hearts. It became an unforgettable memory after they discovered Estella was their long-lost sister. "Mommy, are you taking us to the beach we went to last time?" Benny asked. Roxanne could not help but feel emotional as she recalled their last experience. After the kindergarten activity ended, they had gone on a hot spring vacation where many things happened. If it weren't for Sonia and Aubrey, Roxanne and Lucian would have been together when they were enjoying themselves at the beach. "Mommy," the little ones urged impatiently, waiting for her answer. Roxanne snapped back to her senses and smiled at the children. "No. This time, we're going to the beach I used to visit." The little one's eyes lit up. Since Archie and Benny were rarely exposed to Roxanne's past while growing up, they were thrilled to learn that she was taking them to her favorite beach. Roxanne could not help but grin when she looked in the rearview mirror and saw the happiness on their faces. When she found out she was pregnant years ago, she once stood by the sea and imagined how she would watch her children play on the beach. However, she quickly dismissed that thought, as she had decided to leave the country for good. Roxanne had long given up hope of watching her children having fun by the beach. Little did she know that one day her dream would come true. Half an hour later, Roxanne's car slowly stopped in the distance from the beach. As soon as the car stopped, the children got out of the vehicle and ran toward the beach like untamed horses. "Be careful!" Roxanne's cheeks tinged pink when she thought about the accident she had had the last time she was here. The three children waved their hands at her without looking back and dashed toward the waves. Roxanne quickened her pace and kept up with her children. "Mommy, you're so pretty!" Estella grabbed Roxanne's hand and snuggled up to her. Her little face lit up in awe. There had been a firework event during their last vacation to the hot spring resort. As a result, the beach was overcrowded with people, and the children didn't get the chance to experience playing on the beach. It was quiet all around at that moment, save for the sounds of waves crashing against the beach. Despite their young age and high energy levels, the children couldn't help but want to quiet down and relax in the face of the calming waves. Roxanne patted their heads and said, "There are not many people here, and it's really quiet. That's why I come here quite often." Then she took a glance at the surroundings. Still worried, she held Estella's hand and said to Archie and Benny, "I'm going to bring you guys to a place." The two boys snapped back to their senses and kept up with their mother obediently. Roxanne took them on a long walk, and the children noticed that there was a lighthouse and a long deck when they arrived. The majestic blue lighthouse towered over the long, white deck, set against the backdrop of crystal clear, turquoise waters. The windmill nearby turned slowly and gracefully with the rhythm of the tides, creating a picturesque scene that seemed to belong in a fairy tale. The kids were in awe. "This is totally different from the beach that we've been to. Go ahead and enjoy." Roxanne was elated to see her children liking the beach. The three children finally snapped out of their awe at Roxanne's words. Estella was the first to scamper toward the sea. "Archie, Benny, come on." Archie and Benny followed behind her. "Run, Essie. We're going to catch you." The three of them chased each other on the deck. Roxanne leaned against the railing, watching her kids play happily. She couldn't help but take out her phone to photograph them. She had missed out on a lot of Estella's growth. She had never seen Estella babble as she learned to talk, nor had she ever seen her stumble as she learned to walk. However, Roxanne was still grateful that she had shown up when Estella needed her the most. She was grateful that she had reached out to help Estella and had not resisted the little girl's emotional dependence on her. If Estella's autism had persisted until now, Roxanne would be overwhelmed with feelings of self-blame. Naturally, Roxanne was more concerned about Estella. Even though the camera was aimed at the three children, Estella was in every single one of the photos that she had taken. From now on, she vowed to never miss out on a single moment of Estella's life anymore. Tired from running around, the three children went back to Roxanne when they noticed that she was still standing in the same spot, taking photos of them. "Mommy, what are you looking at?" The three of them huddled to her side and clutched a corner of her shirt. They tiptoed to get a glimpse of Roxanne's phone screen. Roxanne smiled and crouched down to show them the photos that she had taken. "There are so many photos of Essie." Benny puffed his cheeks in mock displeasure. "Mommy, are you favoring Essie now? It's so obvious." Roxanne was stumped. She had only wanted to record their happy moments and didn't notice who she was photographing. However, after skimming through the photos, she realized that there were indeed a lot of Estella's photos. Join our Facebook and WhatsApp group for more updates, link is given in description. Rest audiobook will be continued in next episode.